some software engineers
absolutely
also have their reservations. They said that an unscrupulous, someone who wants to rig, will just allow you to do all that you want to do, and it goes to the system and it changes the figures. He changes the figures, and so there is no system that is foolproof. There is none. It's just to apply speed. We keep trying, it's like in mathematics, there is trial and error. We keep trying until but there is remarkable improvement in this election compared to last week's election. Because by this time, the last election, there were no collating, there were no counting. There were still complaints of INEC have not come, INEC, voting didn't start on time. But there's an improvement, and I hope that this improvement will be systematic and it will keep...
If you're imputing results into a system in the presence of security operatives, in the presence of party agents, or in a location that is that has cameras?
Yes, cameras, and then the party agents agree this is it, and they also have in their own system too. So by the time you get to collation, instead of what we got during the presidential, where they brought from different states and they were counting one by one, very cumbersome, boring, and sluggish, draining everybody, including the INEC officials themselves, and those of us who were even analyzing.
Precisely, and that is why some would argue that in countries where they have more population than Nigeria, like India, when they conduct elections, the same day the results come in. So what is the peculiar problem with Nigeria that has lower number of electorate?
It's all the same thing we'll be doing. It's about the manual nature of it that is making it cumbersome, and also the lack of trust that is making all this. If it's not that, even what she just said, if you impute it and transfer it by a computer, it should be safe.
Yes.
But the thing is, everybody now knows that somebody can sit somewhere and hack the system and change the figures. So you see, I think what is going to help Nigeria is when we begin to make political office not lucrative. When it comes to service and people begin to, I mean, you can see us watching people in the Cross River playing football. And then you can then see that the lack of interest in what concerns you, until we all wake up and begin to say, let's say even if it's 50% vote, but 80% are aware of what the system is, and it will be difficult to manipulate. That is the system I think we will get to. But there is no process that is 100%. None. But the only thing is we can only get better, improve the system as it suits us, and remove all this manual thing, counting one by one and writing it and carrying it in the same paper, and you get to Abuja, it's on a long sheet that is as big as this table, and you are using a ruler to follow up. Hey, I mean, all those things don't speak, but after a while, I believe with the improvement we've seen over 2015 to now, I think we should begin to sit down in 2023 to say this will not happen.
So I guess the conversation about improving the electoral process will continue.
Yes, I think that those people who have been following the results, the party agents, they may have maybe two. Because even in news writing, you write something, you assume maybe you wrote what the word was. But somebody coming with a fresh eye would dictate or will see the mistake. By the time you get to Abuja and you put all the papers there, very confusing, and you have to use light, they say, can we bring halogen for you to be able to see, Because the eyes are weak and tired. So a fresh eye.
You have a bespectacled professor.
Yes. So you need a fresh eye to easily dictate the figures so that you don't make mistakes. Those are some of the challenges. But I hope that after this election, INEC will look at all the challenges and begin to rectify and begin to improve on them.
Away from the challenges now, still about the challenges, perhaps now we can comfortably look at, the variations in the political awareness or the level of participation of people in different states of the Federation. We go to Cross River, as you say, the youths are playing football, but then we go to Bauchi and we see, an impressive voter turnout and interest in the political process. And we go to Benue and we see that same level of interest. So what is the difference between the North Central, and the South in political participation? Dokun, you want to take that?
You know, one thing I've found out, and people made this way, they say, oh, these people don't know. They know a lot. The political savvy more than us. And you see what they have also done to make the process easy for their people. I mean, with due respect, they know the level of education of these people. And so this man cannot go and be lining up and filling form. People go and fill forms and collect their papers with that and give them, and that can. We must change our attitude to the way, and you know, sometimes sophistication can be a negative, like what we just said with somebody in Cross River, and then they say it's election day and you are opening your shop and you are playing football. You say, it doesn't bother me. These people are old people. They don't bring us young people. I say they will call you and say, come and take power. It doesn't happen until we change our attitude here and begin to make things easy. Because I know some of my friends who said they couldn't collect their cards because people were demanding money and they're putting at times when they're in the office. But the thing is, you need to ask yourself, if, for instance, the government says it's compulsory for you to have it, to do something, people will stay. Maybe that's what we should do to ourselves there. Make it mandatory, kind of, that people should collect their cards and then use it and then get involved in the process. As long as we keep walking away from it, we can't complain when things don't work right. And that's what you see in the North. See the population of people. See as they show them. You see the difference.
What are your thoughts on the same issue?
I think that in the North, there is this general awareness over time. They have been involved in politics over time, and they know the importance of getting involved, and they have deep respect for their leaders. So when their leaders come to them and gather them together to speak to them, they listen, they obey, because they believe their leaders are right. For instance, in Sokoto, some people, for Buhari, it's like an addiction. They love him to that level that nothing, they can never go wrong. That's just the way they feel. So if he goes to talk to them, go and get your PVCs, they will do it without any questioning. So the advantage for them is the language and the religion. It's easy for them to gather like 1,000 people and speak the same language. But down south and east, we don't have that kind of language that you can just talk to everybody at the same time. And then there's this arrogance. Our people here down south, we feel that we know so much and we don't really know so much. And you have to go to the grassroots. Going to the grassroots means that you have to go and talk to the women in the language that they would understand. I was involved in a sensitization project, and the condition for which I was considered as a resource person was that I have to speak Yoruba, because the women could not speak a word of English. So the only way to communicate with them is to speak their language, come down to their level, sing with them, you know, explain to them what corruption is, how it affects them. Because they just hear the government is fighting corruption, they say, what is their business with corruption? But I had to explain to them, corruption means that you don't have health centers. You are crying for health centers, but you don't have it. Your women are dying during childbirth, and the money that was supposed to be used to build health centers for you are diverted to somewhere else. And they said, what? Could that be true? I said, yes.
Very quickly now, isn't it curious that political awareness and participation has very little to do with education? Because you could, down south, there is educational advancement and less of it in the north.
You see, just what you said, let me tell you, I've said it, education is different from ignorance. You can be educated and be ignorant. And that's what is happening in the south. What is it? They are eating our money. Don't mind them. But in the north, what you see is the centrality of figure and leadership. A man when they respect you, they get you do the things they want. But here, we're too diverse. We're too smart for ourselves, and so we lose. And that's why you see all this. The voting pattern. Wait till maybe when they tell us the total, you will see the difference. I mean, I can imagine that if you look across the from what we saw today, they probably be having less than 30 or something percent. But something usually must get people to go and vote.
It is very, very interesting. That thing or those areas in which, you know, voters in the South are ignorant of. I'd really like us to pursue that point. But we must take another break for the news. But don't forget, stay with Nigeria Votes. The news is up next with Veronica Dan Ipoy.